I've never seen this. Billie Jean King reacts to Eala and Felix's New York fan takeover. The tennis legend has witnessed generations of champions, from Billie Jean King herself to Serena Williams to the modern era's brightest stars. But nothing prepared her for what happened at Flushing Meadows on August 25, 2026. When Louis Armstrong Stadium transformed into a sea of Philippine flags, when the Eala effect reached its peak, the woman whose name adorns the USTA National Tennis Center herself was left utterly speechless. She has seen it all. From the Battle of the Sexes in 1973, when she defeated Bobby Riggs in straight sets before 30,472 spectators at the Houston Astrodome and 90 million television viewers worldwide, to the birth of the WTA Tour, which she founded and fought to build, to the opening of the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows, a facility that bears her name to this day. Billie Jean King, now 82 years old, has witnessed generations of champions. She has seen Margaret Court, Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova, Serena Williams, and Venus Williams command center court. She has watched the sport evolve from amateur obscurity to global phenomenon. She has been present for the greatest moments in tennis history. But on August 25, 2026, she witnessed something she had never seen before. Louis Armstrong Stadium. The 10 a.m. start time, and a crowd unlike any she had ever encountered in her decades of watching the U.S. Open. The stands were a sea of red, blue, yellow, and white, Philippine flags waving from every section. Thousands of voices chanted, "Let's go, Alex," in perfect unison, transforming the New York venue into a celebration of Filipino pride. The energy was electric, the atmosphere almost surreal. And at the center of it all stood Eala, a 21-year-old Filipina who had just climbed to a career-high world number 18 ranking, and her mixed doubles partner, Canadian world no. 4 Felix Auger-Aliassime. They were taking on the married power couple Elena Svitolina and Gail Monfils, but in the eyes of the crowd, there was only one star. And Billie Jean King was watching every moment. The woman whose words, "Pressure is a privilege," are painted inside the players' entrance tunnel of Auger-Aliassime Stadium, leaned forward in her seat. She had seen passion before. She had seen fan devotion before. But this was something different. This was the Eala effect, and it was about to leave the tennis legend absolutely speechless. The 10 a.m. start time on Louis Armstrong Stadium was supposed to be routine. What Billie Jean King witnessed instead was anything but ordinary. The 82-year-old tennis icon had seen passion before: the roaring crowds at Wimbledon, the electric atmosphere of Auger-Aliassime Stadium during Serena's finals, the deafening chants of USA. USA! At the Olympics. But as she settled into her seat on August 25, 2026, she found herself in the middle of something she had never encountered in her decades of watching the U.S. Open. The stands were a sea of red, blue, yellow, and white. Philippine flags waved from every section. Thousands of voices chanted, "Let's go, Alex!" in perfect unison. Children held up handmade signs. Fans who had traveled from California, Texas, and Florida stood shoulder to shoulder with New York locals who had been waiting months for this moment. Billie Jean King's own words echoed in the players' tunnel just beneath her. Pressure is a privilege. And that pressure was now being channeled into something remarkable. A movement that had transformed Flushing Meadows into a celebration of Filipino pride. At the center of it all stood Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina, ranked a career-high number 18 in the world and projected to move up to the no. 17 seed following Victoria Mboko's withdrawal from the main draw, looked completely at home. Beside her stood Felix Auger-Aliassime, the Canadian world no. 4, who had been eagerly anticipating this moment for weeks. "It's a great opportunity because I didn't play last year," Auger-Aliassime had told reporters before the match. "This time around, to kind of feel what it's like to have the Eala effect and fan base behind me." But Billie Jean King knew something the Canadian star was just beginning to understand. This wasn't just fan support. This was a cultural phenomenon, the Filipino diaspora transforming a Grand Slam tournament into a home away from home. The U.S. Open had never seen anything like it. And the woman whose name adorns the facility was about to say something that would send shockwaves through the tennis world. The 82-year-old tennis icon leaned forward in her seat at Louis Armstrong Stadium, her eyes scanning the sea of Philippine flags that stretched across every section. And then she said the words that would echo through the tennis world. "I have never seen anything like it." Billie Jean King, the woman whose name adorns the USTA National Tennis Center itself, has witnessed every era of tennis history. She has seen the sport evolve from the amateur days of the 1960s to the billion-dollar global phenomenon it is today. She has watched legends like Margaret Court, Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova, and Serena Williams command center court. She has been present for the greatest moments in tennis history: the battle of the sexes, the birth of the WTA, the rise of open-era tennis. But what she witnessed on August 25, 2026, at the U.S. Open Mixed Doubles Tournament left her absolutely stunned. The woman who once said, "Pressure is a privilege," words that are now painted inside the player's entrance tunnel of Arthur Ashe Stadium, could not contain her awe. She had met Eala just weeks earlier at Wimbledon, following the Filipina's historic victory over defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court. In a moment that melted across the globe, the 12-time Grand Slam champion and the 21-year-old sensation shared a warm embrace. "I've been watching her for a few years now," King had told the BBC during Wimbledon coverage. Her concentration, today, she was so poised. The conversation between them was deeply personal. "We had a great chat, because we both grew up with our brothers. And I had a younger brother who played 12 years of professional baseball. And she's such close friends with her brother, and that's what it was for me too, so we kind of hit it off there," King revealed. Then we talked about her grandfather a little bit. King was clearly moved by what she saw in the young Filipina. She's so grounded for her age, and she's so thankful. She has such gratitude, already at a young age, she said. And then came the words that captured the magnitude of the moment. When asked about the significance of Eala's Wimbledon triumph, the first time a Filipino had reached the fourth round of a Grand Slam in the Open era, King delivered her verdict on the fan phenomenon that has become known as the Eala effect. "It's so big for the Philippines. I am so happy for her and the country," King said. Then came the words that would define this moment. "I have never seen anything like it. Never. In her decades of watching tennis, never." King went further, sharing her hopes for what Eala's success could mean for the sport globally. "I just hope every child, both boys and girls, because they talk about girls, I was thinking, why not boys?" she said. "I hope they take up the sport. It's the sport of a lifetime. It's also the healthiest sport in the world." But on this day at Louis Armstrong Stadium, King was witnessing something that transcended even her own expectations. The crowd that had gathered to watch Eala and Felix Auger-Aliassime take on Svitolina and Monfils was unlike any she had ever seen at the U.S. Open. Thousands of fans draped in Philippine flags, chanting, "Let's go, Alex!" in unison, turning Flushing Meadows into a home away from home for the Filipina sensation. As Auger-Aliassime had admitted just days earlier, Eala was carrying the crowd. The legendary King had seen passion before. She had seen fan devotion before. But this was something different. This was the Eala effect at its most powerful, and it had just received the ultimate endorsement from the sport's most respected figure. When Billie Jean King says she has never seen anything like it, the tennis world listens. And her words carry weight that transcends generations. The 82-year-old icon, whose name adorns the very facility where history was unfolding, didn't just witness a tennis match on August 25, 2026. She witnessed a cultural phenomenon that could reshape the sport she helped build. "I just hope every child, both boys and girls, because they talk about girls, I was thinking, why not boys?" King said during her BBC Wimbledon coverage earlier this year. "I hope they take up the sport. It's the sport of a lifetime. It's also the healthiest sport in the world." Those words reveal King's vision for what Eala's success could mean. The Philippines has never been known as a tennis powerhouse. But with Eala climbing to a career-high number 18 in the WTA rankings, with the possibility of moving up to the No. 17 seed following Victoria Mboko's withdrawal, the landscape is shifting. The U.S. Open's record-breaking $108 million prize pool is now within reach of a player who has already proven she belongs on the biggest stages. Former U.S. Open finalist Greg Rusedski believes Eala's potential extends far beyond her current ranking. "I wouldn't be surprised if she's in the quarters or semis. She's that good," he said. "I think the mentality is second to none," and King, who personally embraced Eala after her Wimbledon victory, agrees. When King spoke to Eala at Wimbledon, she discovered a young woman whose values mirror her own. "We had a great chat because we both grew up with our brothers. And she's such close friends with her brother, and that's what it was for me too, so we kind of hit it off there," King revealed. Then we talked about her grandfather a little bit. King's assessment of Eala's character was as powerful as her assessment of the crowd. "She's so grounded for her age, and she's so thankful she has such gratitude already at a young age." Now, at the U.S. Open, that same young woman has drawn the largest Filipino crowd in tennis history. Billie Jean King has watched the sport evolve for 6 decades. She has seen the WTA rise from obscurity to global prominence. She has fought for equality, for recognition, and for the rights of women athletes. And in August 2026, at the facility that bears her name, she witnessed the arrival of a force that could change the sport forever. The Eala effect is no longer just a fan phenomenon. It's a movement with the potential to inspire a new generation of tennis players from a country that has never had a champion like Eala. And King sees what that could mean. "I have never seen anything like it." Those 6 words from Billie Jean King will echo through tennis history for decades to come. Because when the woman whose name adorns the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center herself says she has never witnessed something in her 82 years of life and 6 decades of watching tennis, the world sits up and takes notice. But King's reaction wasn't just about the crowd. It was about what the crowd represented. The 82-year-old icon, who owns 39 Grand Slam titles and fought for gender equality her entire life, saw something in Eala that reminded her of herself. When she embraced Eala at Wimbledon just weeks earlier, she discovered a young woman whose values mirror her own. "We had a great chat because we both grew up with our brothers," King revealed. "She's such close friends with her brother, and that's what it was for me too, so we kind of hit it off there." King was moved by what she saw in the Filipina sensation. "She's so grounded for her age, and she's so thankful. She has such gratitude already at a young age," she said. And when the tennis legend posted about their meeting on Instagram, she wrote, "What a treat to spend some time with Eala, fresh off her historic win at Wimbledon today. She is the first Filipino to reach the round of 16. Such an inspiration for kids in the Philippines and all over the world." But the moment at Louis Armstrong Stadium on August 25, 2026, was something else entirely. Billie Jean King watched as thousands of Filipino fans transformed Flushing Meadows into a sea of red, blue, yellow, and white. She listened as the chants of "Let's go, Alex!" echoed across the grounds she helped build. She witnessed a cultural phenomenon unlike any she had encountered in her decades of watching the U.S. Open. The significance of that moment cannot be overstated. King has seen the sport evolve from the amateur days of the 1960s to the billion-dollar global phenomenon it is today. She has watched legends like Margaret Court, Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova, and Serena Williams command center court. She has been present for the greatest moments in tennis history. The battle of the sexes, the birth of the WTA, the rise of open-era tennis. But this was different. This was the Eala effect at its most powerful, a movement that had transformed a Grand Slam tournament into a celebration of Filipino pride. And it had just received the ultimate endorsement from the sport's most respected figure. "Pressure is a privilege," King once said, words now painted inside the players' entrance tunnel of Arthur Ashe Stadium. And on this day, Eala proved that she understands that privilege. The 21-year-old Filipina, projected to be seeded at least number 17 at the U.S. Open, had already made history. She had become the first Filipino to win a WTA Tour title, the first to reach the second week of a Grand Slam, the first to be seeded at a major tournament. And now, with Billie Jean King watching from the stands, she was about to write the next chapter of her extraordinary journey. I wouldn't be surprised if she's in the quarters or semis. She's that good, former US Open finalist Greg Rusedski had said. I think the mentality is second to none. King's words, I have never seen anything like it. He captured the magnitude of the moment. New York was sold out. The crowd was electric. And the legend who had paved the way for women's tennis was witnessing the arrival of a force that could change the sport forever. The moment had arrived, and Billie Jean King was there to see it.